Welcome to the EQ Video Tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter. As always, thanks for watching another edition of the EQ Video Tip. Before we jump in, let's review the goals of EQ Video Tip. What's on tap for today? Well, we're in the second half of Nick Hobson's Law of Nine on ways to overcome challenges and, of course, beat the odds. We talked a lot last time about different forms of empathy and understanding them. And, of course, because it's an EQ show, we're going to talk about emotions and how to use them for you as opposed to against you. Let's jump in and get to the second half of Nick's great article right now. Tip number 1. They know the reasons for having emotions. And when you think about it, the word emotion derives from the Latin called emovere, which actually means to move. And your emotions actually quite literally move us, whether you're happy, you're sad. It's your behaviors that actually sway your emotional state. And more importantly, you have insight into your own as well as others' emotional states and how they move them and influence you. When you do this, you have more control over how your emotions are controlling you versus you controlling them. In doing so, you can use them to become a better manager, a better friend, a better partner, whatever it might be. So remember, know the reasons for having your emotions. Tip number 2, they get the nuance of emotions. And emotions go beyond the simple I'm happy or I'm sad distinction. When you really start to think about emotions, you're able to draw those subtle differences between being bored versus sad versus gloomy. And understanding that and understanding how different situations will elicit different forms of expression and emotions is an important factor in making sure that you overcome different obstacles. So take a moment to really pinpoint the different situations that you're in and then understand that, hey, am I having an anxiety attack? Is it fear? Is it panic? Or is it just, hey, I'm generally nervous? The same thing would apply. Maybe it's a gloomy versus sad versus bored. Understanding your emotions will help you to overcome different challenges. Tip number 3, they value negative emotions. Now, we love to have positive emotions. Being happy is a great thing, but it's also okay to have negative emotions because they're appropriate depending on the right place, time, and circumstance that's going on. It's important to understand why negative emotions are important as well. When we were in prehistoric times, for example, you would have anxiety as maybe something to help you become more vigilant for an impending threat or danger that's out there, whether you're being hunted by an animal or they're about to go to war, whatever it might be. It's really important. And yes, that can go haywire in people at times, but simply understanding the function of anxiety can help us make it easier for us to accept it as well as deal with it and overcome that stress that we're putting upon ourselves as well. Our next tip, they predict how emotions will impact future behaviors. And much of our daily life is trying to predict what will happen in the future. And if you could figure out how to curve that or to slant it in your favor, wouldn't that be a great thing? Well, guess what? People with high EQ are able to help predict their future behavior because they understand their emotions. People with low or ordinary EQ, they fail to account for the impact their emotions might have on the decision that they're going to do in the future, which results in bad decision making. On the other hand, people with high EQ, they actually have a better way of planning and predicting because they know what their emotions do to them and they understand how that impacts their future decisions as well as their future behavior. So take a moment to understand your emotions and see how it might impact your future behavior. That's a wrap for this week's EQ video tip. Hopefully these tips and double episode will help you out. Remember, take a look at all 9 tips and of course use them to make yourself a better EQ person. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ Video Tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.